I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you for joining us during our weekly virtual MLS breakfast meetings. My name is Cecilia Rudar from American Heritage Realtors, and I'm your September MLS program chair. A little about me is on the left-hand side of your screen. I just wanted to tell you something that's not on the screen. When I first started selling real estate, I sold raw land in Apple Valley. And I bought a piece of land there for $5,800. That's probably worth $5,800. No, anyhow, that was my beginning of real estate career. And then I made an offer on a piece of property in Duarte for $18,000. Unfortunately, it didn't go through. I was a single woman at the time, and they didn't like single women buying real estate. But they, of course, they didn't admit that, but that was the bottom line. Anyhow, the 210 freeway ran through that lot, so it was a good thing I didn't buy it. Anyhow, that's just a fun tidbit. Okay, a few housekeeping tips. All participants will be muted upon entry to the MLS breakfast meeting. And should you have a question or comment, please remember to enter it into the chat box. Please remember to join us weekly as we have our virtual MLS breakfast meeting every Thursday at 9 a.m. And as always, you have to register for the meeting. It doesn't just automatically come up. You have to register, and then you will be sent a link, and then you will get the message. Please remember to follow WSGVR social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also watch all our pre-recorded videos on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to WSGVR text message service to get the latest information from West San Gabriel. Text WSGVR to the number 72727. Okay, now our quick MLS tip for the day. This is new, so pay attention. Business days has been eliminated from C.A.R. MLS rules. Effective September 1st, the use of the term business days is being eliminated from the rules, excepting Rule 7.9, which is clear cooperation. Otherwise, all references to days in the rules will mean calendar days. Effected rules include mandatory delivery of listing agreement, change of listing information, correcting violations, and more. If you want more information, there is a link there. Okay, now our agenda for today is going to be with our affiliate spotlight, C.A.R, Morrison Plus Property Inspections. Our main speaker will be Matt Roberts, from Federal and Local Government Affairs Director from California Association of Realtors. And he's a big wig, so pay attention. Okay, to be eligible for today's raffle, you must be a WSGVR member and your name must be displayed to win. We will not accept telephone numbers. Now, our spotlight and introductions will be brought to you by the affiliate committee, Chair Sage Gomez and Vice Chair Brandon Sovronsky. The floor is yours, Chase.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. My name is Chase. I'm with Morrison Plus Property Inspections. We're located in Glendora, California, and we service just about all the San Gabriel Valley, and we do have franchise locations too. So we actually cover most of Southern California now, and it's actually expanded up into Northern California and into Vegas. So next slide, please. And for those who didn't see my contact info on the previous slide, here it is again. Feel free if you guys ever need any kind of questions answered in terms of inspections, feel free to either call my office number or my cell phone number, and my email is also always open for anyone who needs answers to any questions or help with scheduling. And here's a little bit about me for those who don't know me. I'm a big outdoors guy. If it has something to do with going outside and just being out in nature, I'm usually up for it. Here's you can see the photo on the top left of me and my buddies on a fishing trip, and then right below that is a nice picture up in Big Bear snowboarding this last season, which is always really fun. And then a couple more outdoor photos of me with the ATV and then up on the mountain snowshoeing, which is always fun to do during the wintertime. And then the last photo is just me and my family at my college graduation a handful of months ago. So that's a little bit about me for those who don't know me. Next slide, please. And then a little bit about Morrison property inspections. Here's a list of the services we offer. Residential, commercial, multi-unit inspections. We cover all of them. We have additional inspections as well, such as sewer scoping, chimney inspections, and we also offer additional enhancements such as pool and spa inspections, thermal enhancements, drone inspections for those roofs that are hard to access. We also offer an estimated cost of repairs, and a couple of additional bonuses that we have are we do offer same-day reports, and all of our inspectors are certified. And we also work with third-party referrals for both termite, asbestos, and actually a few more. And those are just a couple of the achievements in terms of certifications that our inspectors hold, INTERNACHI, ASHI, and CREA. And again, I want to thank you guys for letting me talk to you all, introduce myself. If you need anything, feel free to call this number. We'll be happy to help, and everyone have a great rest of your day and a happy weekend.
Good. Thank you, Chase. One question before you leave.
Yep.
How tall are you?
How tall am I?
Yeah.
I'm about close to 6'5".
6'5", because you tower over everybody in those pictures.
My buddies aren't the tallest dudes, except for one of them, so it kind of helps out a little bit.
So you stand out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, make sure that you always use our affiliates. I've gotten into a practice to where if an affiliate calls and wants my business, I tell them, are you a registered WSG affiliate? And if they say no, I give them the information for West San Gabriel. Please use our affiliates. Thank you. Okay, open pitching. Oh, we're going to introduce our affiliates now. Let's first see Nancy Chan from Lawyers Title.
Good morning, everybody. Nancy Chan, Lawyers Title. Have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Good morning. John Wax from Snap NHD.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. John Wax with Snap NHD, Natural Hazard Disclosure Reports. I'll put my information in the chat. Let's have a great meeting.
Thank you. Sandy Franco from First American Home Warranty.
Good morning, everyone. Sandy Franco, First American Home Warranty. Have a fabulous day.
Angie Tang from Stewart Title.
Thank you, Cecilia. Good morning, Angie Tang with Stewart Title. Have a wonderful caravan.
And Sage Gomez, My NHD.
Good morning, everyone. Sage Gomez here with My NHD. Have a great day.
Cosmo Sanchez, New AIM Funding.
Good morning, Cosmo Sanchez with New AIM Funding. Thank you.
Judy Chow, AAA Capital Investments.
Good morning, everyone. Have a great weekend. Remember all those who responded for 911 20th anniversary. Thank you.
Brandon Savronsky, First American NHD.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of their week. This is Brandon Savransky with First American NHD.
So I think we missed one. Did we miss one? Nancy, I believe.
No,
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
And Nancy was up.
Okay.
Okay, we do have the opportunity for open pitching, and today I don't believe we have any. But if you've got a listing that you want to pitch, just send it to the association and we'll include it in our pitching. Okay, now it's my pleasure to welcome the man himself, Matt Roberts. He is the Federal and Local Government Affairs Director from the California Association of Realtors. And he said, Cecilia, don't do the whole bio because, you know, he's got a lot to talk about. But please read his bio. He's a very impressive man. He's been with C.A.R. for 18 years as the federal lobbyist to Washington, D.C. This man hobnobs with all the top people in government. And if you want something done, contact Matt. Matt, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Yes.
First off, thank you so much for inviting me. I know everybody I know everybody's very busy. You're all your own small business entities, and you taking the time this morning to be here, hopefully I can make it worth your while. Not everybody gets excited about politics. I do. I love it. I geek out on it. That's why I do what I do. And what I do for you, the realtors. It's my first time to this association, and thank you again for inviting me. Today, again, Matt Roberts, 18 years with the California Association of Realtors. I am the federal lobbyist. I work closely with NAR and what they do, and I kind of make sure that NAR is focused on California issues. NAR has to obviously look at the entire nation. California, we know it, we're special, we're unique. We have every sort of environment. Our housing markets cut across the board from affordable to ridiculously expensive, and we really need a DC presence, and we need NAR to focus on the issues that we need them to. Today, before I get going, what I want to do is I kind of want to lay a little political groundwork in the sense and remind everybody, we are the realtor party. What does that mean? It means we have 200,000 members in California, 1.5 million members nationwide, political leanings that cut across the entire board, the entire spectrum. And what that means is we have people that normally would never agree with each other when it comes to political issues. However, they're able to come together when it comes to real estate. They come together on housing affordability, housing supply, mortgage finance. It doesn't matter if they're Democrats or Republicans. When it comes to realtor issues, real estate and championing home ownership, they're able to come together. And that really provides an incredible amount of strength to the advocacy efforts at the local, state, and national level. Because when we knock on a lawmaker's door, they know we're not coming there to talk about some non-real estate related issue or some partisan issue. We're there to talk about real estate. We're there to talk about issues that are going to directly impact all their constituents and not maybe just some business that's across the country somewhere. So that's really important, the fact that we have such a broad membership able to come together and really speak with one voice. Today, we're going to talk about a budget reconciliation package. Get your coffee, because at first sound, that sounds, wow, budget reconciliation package. But this is it. As the picture of Jeremy Irons from the movie Margin Call is sitting in front of his board of directors before the housing crisis and Great Recession, and he's banging on the table saying, this is it. And I'm here to tell you, the budget reconciliation package is it. This is the only game in town right now. This is known as reconciliation, build it back better, social infrastructure. Some of you just hear it's called, hey, this is the Democrat partisan proposal, the $3.5 trillion proposal. It's called budget reconciliation because it's just a tactic that Congress can use to move a piece of legislation through, and they only need 50 votes in the Senate. There's no way to filibuster a budget reconciliation bill. So what they do is they say, okay, we need to get what we need passed. We'll put it in the budget reconciliation package, and the opposition party can't block it. In this case, the Republicans. Has this been used in the past? Yes. 2017, the Republicans used it to pass tax reform. I believe it was used to pass Obamacare. So this is not unheard of for a party that has control to go ahead and use budget reconciliation. What are they thinking about putting in it? This is their hopes for all of their agenda that they can't get through. And we'll talk about what that agenda includes. But because this is really their one chance to get their Democrat priorities through Congress, this is it. Now, what's important to remember is the political environment. When I first got hired by Alex Creel, who is my previous boss, he was a lobbyist for C.A.R. for 40 years. He said, Matt, if you want to be a good lobbyist, you need to be able to count. You got to count to 51, you got to count to 218. There's 3 vacant seats. So the numbers at first don't seem to add up, but right now in the House of Representatives, 220 Democrats, 212 Republicans. Nancy Pelosi can only lose 3 votes. If she loses 4 votes, it's a tie vote, the bill dies. That means she has progressives like AOC, and she has moderates like Blue Dogs. She has to somehow make both these groups happy so that she's not losing more than 3 votes. In the Senate, straight 50-50, Vice President is the tiebreaker, Kamala Harris. So this is a really tough haul for the Democrats to get budget reconciliation through and still making the progressives and the moderates happy. Very difficult. So the timing of this is perfect. I'm going to tell you why. Because right now, as we're talking, the House of Representatives committees are meeting at this moment. And what they're doing is each committee has a section of the budget that they're responsible for. And they're all at this moment debating their portions of the budget. They're going to begin what's called marking up. That's just the technical term used for meaning to vote out of committee. They're marking up their portions of the bill. And then what they do is once they mark up the portions of the bill, they bring it together as a comprehensive reconciliation package. Now, not all of the language is written yet. Some of the bills still haven't been written, even though the committees have already begun to meet. They're going to be meeting this week. They're going to be meeting next week. Perhaps most important, the Ways and Means Committee is the Tax Writing Committee. They've released about 4 or 5 bills that they're responsible for, but they haven't yet released the revenue raising bills, the bills where they're going to increase taxes to pay for this whole package. That's expected to be released over the weekend. And we'll talk about what may or may not be in that, because that I think is really where the meat of today's meeting is going to be. So what's going to be in this bill? Okay, this is just a list. This is why they're calling it a package, why it's a social infrastructure package. Healthcare, child tax credits, clean energy, prescription drugs, electric vehicles, environmental, education, you name it, the Democrats are putting all their eggs into this basket. Now, why do we care about those issues? We don't, not as realtors. I know you do personally and you should. However, as realtors, as C.A.R., what we're focused on is housing. And why do we care is because there is a push to make housing infrastructure, perhaps tax credits for private developers to build more development, perhaps grants to incentivize state and local governments to approve more development projects. There has been a push over the last 3-4 years by Maxine Waters from California, who chairs the House Financial Services Committee. And that's the committee that's really in charge of housing nationwide. And she has pushed for the last 3 to 4 years to make housing infrastructure. It didn't get a lot of traction at first. However, a lot of you have heard over the last 2-3 years that there's really a nationwide housing shortage. And suddenly all these flyover states are realizing we need more development. And now this is beginning to get some traction. And we may see some provisions in the bill that actually incentivize development for more housing. Why else do we care? Well, they have to pay for this somehow. At the federal level, they can pass a bill that just goes into deficit. The federal government has that capability. But if they do it too much, eventually you get to an election and the other party gets to beat you over the head with it. And so the Democrats are very cautious going into 2022 not to overspend without paying for it, to protect against too much of a deficit. So it's called pay-fors is really what they call it. And it's just simply tax increases. You spend here, you got to collect more money on the other side. How does the federal government collect money? They raise taxes. Very simple. Now, what are some of the tax ideas that have been put out there that we've been looking at? One, perhaps a cap on 1031 like-kind exchanges. Another, perhaps a capital gains tax on unrealized gain at time of death. This is a way to eliminate the benefit of stepped up basis. I don't want to get too wonky, but I just want to take 30 seconds for those of you that may not be familiar with stepped up basis. Very simple. A nice lady bought a home in, let's say 1980 for $100,000. 40 years later, that home could be worth $2 million. Not impossible in California. If she sells the home in 2020, she has to pay a capital gains tax on 1.9 million. The gain from 100,000 to 2 million. Very simplified. If there are accountants out there, don't beat me over the head. I'm keeping this simple for numbers. If she passes away in 2020, then whoever inherits the property, let's say her daughter inherits the property, for tax purposes, the tax basis is stepped up from 100,000 to 2 million, the fair market value. So her daughter that inherits the property can sell it right away for $2 million, and there's no capital gains tax. The tax basis is stepped up from 100,000 to 2 million. Now, if this proposal of taxing unrealized gain at time of death were to go through, then same scenario, when the lady passes away, before the estate could close out, the estate would have to recognize the $1.9 million gain at time of death and pay capital gains tax on that. Then the daughter would inherit the property after the taxes were paid, and she would have a stepped up basis, but it's irrelevant because they had to pay the capital gains at time of death. And in some cases, because real estate is often the largest asset of many families, they may have to sell a home to be able to cover those taxes. Stepped up basis is an incredible way to pass on generational wealth. Many cases, it helps people move up the socioeconomic ladder to middle class, helps families pay off student debt, down payment for future generations' homes. Stepped up basis is simply something that realtors have been working very hard at protecting. So that's another issue that we're looking at. The second one is higher capital gains rate for the top tax bracket. And maybe you're thinking, well, you know, I don't have a lot of clients who make $1 million or more. This really isn't a big deal. Capital gains applies towards determining a household's income. So you could have a middle-class family earning below 100,000, below 200,000, but when they sell a home that they've lived in for 30, 40 years, and they have a capital gains above $1 million, that gets added onto their income. Now they're in the $1 million tax bracket. So we've been going to Congress saying, look, you can't increase the capital gains tax on the middle class for infrequent events. You have to protect against the sale of a residence. You have to protect mom and pop landlords who are maybe ready to retire and want to liquidate a few of their investment properties. And then you have families who just run into life events, such as perhaps putting their parents into a retirement home or a medical emergency, and they have to sell their home right away to be able to cover those costs. Any one of those could bump someone into the top tax bracket, which could double their capital gains rate, depending on what Congress puts into the bill. So we care a lot about this stuff. Now, those aren't the only three ideas that have been put out there to increase revenue. Other ideas: raise corporate tax rate, more tax on international income, estate tax reform, increase the top tax bracket. There could be some 199A reforms for higher earners. That I know that that could impact some of our members as independent contractors and how they file their tax returns. But the point is that the Congress is looking at a number of ways to raise revenue to cover the cost of this. So the $3.5 trillion question, Matt, what's going to happen? Okay, right now the committees are going to do their work. Normally what would happen is the House passes a bill, sends it to the Senate, Senate looks at it, maybe makes some changes, passes it, sends it back to the House. They don't want to do that. What we're probably going to see is the House of Representatives working very closely with the Senate. And when we say, the House, we're really talking about a few key members. You're talking about leadership, and you're talking about the chairs of very specific committees, especially Ways and Means. And if they can come to an agreement with the Senate on what the total dollar amount should be and what should be in the bill, then the House of Representatives only has to vote on this once. And that, again, that's very important because you have a lot of members in the House that are in tough races in 2022. And they're going to look at Pelosi and leadership and say, look, I'll give you one tough vote, but don't make me go through this for 2-3 weeks, all over C-SPAN, all over the headlines about what my vote is and isn't. I'll give you one time to vote on this, make it count. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the language correct now before it goes to the Senate, and then the Senate just approves whatever came out of the House. It's not going to be $3.5 trillion. It's going to be smaller. Senator Manchin, really the moderate Democrat, that really 50th vote from West Virginia, he has stated he will not vote for $3.5 trillion. He's public about it, and I very much expect him to hold firm on that. Probably see something around $1.5 trillion if it passes. Now a smaller package means they don't need to raise as much taxes, which means there's maybe a better chance of them not going after some of our priorities. If this passes, I very much expect a change to the capital gains tax rate, at least for higher earners. What will that specifically mean? It's still too early to know, but capital gains is very much on the table. I very much expect an affordable housing component. Again, this is a priority issue for Maxine Waters, and as chair of Financial Services Committee, she has the weight to put this into the bill. Just like she was able to put in the emergency rental relief money into the previous COVID packages, she's really able to push her priority. Like I mentioned at the beginning, looking at the political realities, this is not a slam dunk for the Democrats. It's a very tough lift when you look at the political numbers that they have in the House and the Senate. Additionally, time is running out on them. The end of September, they have to pass a budget just to keep the government functioning. They have to pass an extension of flood insurance to keep the National Flood Insurance Program going. And we're about to run up against the debt ceiling, and they're going to have to pass an increase to the nation's debt ceiling so we can continue to pay our debt. Finally, the real question is, okay, Matt, you've talked about this. This is really great, but is it just academic, or is this going to pass? And I noticed somewhere, I believe this is being recorded, but I'll go out on a limb, and what I will say is, anybody who tells you they know for sure is lying. They don't know for sure. If I was putting money down, I think they do pass something. They will likely get something across the finish line. They'll be less than 3.5 trillion. I've thought that they're likely to pass something in the fall, and they're very much moving towards that. Does that mean it's 100% going to happen? No, absolutely not. But the Democrats have the vote. They've got the numbers. If they really want it, they are going to pass it. As I mentioned at the beginning, for the rest of this year, that really is the game. That is the budget reconciliation package is what we're focused on when it comes to Congress. Going into 2022, you're looking at an election year. The Democrats, the Republicans, well, really the Democrats, because they are in the majority, they don't want to take the tough votes in an election year. Also, that's part of the pressure of getting the reconciliation package done now, so that they don't have to deal with the headlines during the election cycle. So we're probably not going to see large controversial bills moving in 2022. The focus is going to be on the regulatory side. And that's something most people overlook. They don't realize how much power, how much authority regulators have. HUD, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHFA, Treasury Department. Congress passes a bill and they make it very broad, they make it very general. And then they give it to the regulators to figure out how we're going to dot the I's, how we're going to cross the T's. And in a number of instances, they'll even give the regulators the authority to determine, oh, maybe we need more I's, maybe we need more T's. The regulators have a lot of power. And so it gets overlooked, but there will be a large focus on by regulators, who are controlled by the administration, to really move the administration's agenda forward in 2022, because Congress just simply is not going to do it. Now, for housing, that could be really good. And I'll tell you why. Because the administration has made a huge push to increase housing supply and to make available more mortgage credit, to loosen mortgage credit. And what are some of the things that they've done so far? One, Fannie Mae is looking at accepting rent payment history as a way to qualify home buyers. They're not going to use it if it's negative, but if there's a positive history of rent payments for the buyer, they're going to factor that in, and more people will be able to qualify. Eventually, we expect Freddie Mac to follow suit and also do that. FHA, Fannie, Freddie, they're extending the first look program, where for their REOs, their foreclosures, for the first 20 days, only home owner occupants or nonprofits can actually make an offer on their REOs. They're extending that from 20 days to 30 days. Again, they're trying to make more inventory available for homeowners, excuse me, home buyers, and get less inventory away from institutional investors. So there is a big push to move more housing towards home ownership. And so this could really benefit realtors and your clients. So that's looking to 2022. With that, I'm done with my spiel, and I'm happy to open it up for any questions that you may have. And I thank you very much for your time and listening.
Wow, extremely good, Matt. I didn't realize how good you were. You have a beautiful way of being able to explain these tough issues. And capital gains is a real tough issue and very important to real estate. Okay, I do not see any questions. I cannot believe that. Are there any in there that I don't see?
One from Mario.
Okay, I don't see it. Would you read it for me, please, Ling?
Mario asks, what is the long-term economic impact of the bills when it passes? Is climate changing being addressed?
Okay, great questions. One, climate change is going to be part of this package. No question about it. And remember, the way that the government often works is they prefer to incentivize. And how do they incentivize? They incentivize with tax incentives. And so they are going to try to use tax incentives to move the needle on consumer and business behavior. Tax incentives for more electric vehicles. Removing tax benefits for perhaps fossil fuel oil companies and what they can and can't deduct for drilling. So they are working on climate change. In terms of the long-term economic impact, if it passes, That's what we've got our research and econ guys looking at right now in terms of its impact on housing. It's really difficult. You know, if you had a normal supply and demand market, it'd be much easier to determine the economic impact on housing when it comes to increasing taxes, lowering taxes on individuals such as, say, capital gains. But when you have such a low supply and a heavy demand, it really skews what the impact of of changes in the law have. Let's go back to 2017 and the tax reform bill that passed. You had the mortgage interest deduction was cut down from $1 million to $750,000. We saw SALT get capped. The state and local tax deductions was capped at $10,000. All of these things should have had a huge negative impact on real estate in high cost areas, but there was no supply and demand was so high that somehow the housing market kind of chugged along. So kind of a long way of saying it's very difficult to determine the long-term economic impact. I would leave that question if you ever bring on Jordan Levine or Oscar Wee from our research and economics.
Okay, Matt, you got a really nice comment from Lorraine Clark. She says, extremely good presentation. Thank you for actually answering the questions that she had prepared to ask you. So she says, great job, Matt.
Nice.
Here's a question from Judy Chow. What do you think about mortgage interest rate movement?
So I think it was 10 or 12 years ago, we had a chief economist named Robert Kleinhens. Those of you that have been around long enough may remember. I'm standing in his doorway. I'm saying, God, you know, Robert, I mean, there's no way interest rates can keep going up, right? They gotta go, can go down anymore. They gotta go up, right? Oh yeah, Matt, they gotta go up. There's no question. I just look dumber and dumber for saying that every year. So I gotta tell you, when it comes to interest rates, I have no idea. I've given up trying to guess. I just can't. I wish I could. It's a monkey throwing a dart at the newspaper picking stocks at this point. That's the best I can say.
I tell my clients all the time, my crystal ball is in the repair shop.
You know.
Okay, here's a question from Mary Scott. Matt, we need to raise the loan limits again for California, especially FHA limit of 477,250 in San Bernardino and Riverside counties. Home prices are skyrocketing.
So you couldn't be more correct, Mary. I think it was 5, 6, COVID puts me in a blur. When FHFA reset the loan limits 5, 6 years ago, yeah, I hate to use the loose term, they screwed a number of areas. And the Inland Empire and areas in the Central Valley really got rolled on this one. They really did. You're correct. We need to get the FHA loan limit up. And you know, I'm not sure what West San Gabriel Valley is doing. I will follow up and reach out with the GAD. But every year, come November, the FHA, FHFA, who regulates Fannie and Freddie, puts out the loan limits. And there's about 30 days when you can contest those loan limits by city or county by county. They're called MSAs, metropolitan statistical areas, but let's just say counties for simplicity purposes. You can contest those loan limits. And we've done it with, in the Central Valley, I know Fresno and Valadeo was pretty aggressive on that. Santa Barbara has been very aggressive on that. And we can work with West San Gabriel Valley and the surrounding locals to try and walk them through, because you're right, FHA loan limits, it's not enough, it's not keeping up. I think you'll see a very large jump in the loan limit come November, but it probably will not be enough to satisfy what the home buyers need in your area.
Okay, Ling has a question. Can you talk more a little about the 1031 exchanges and the step-up basis? And I think one part of that question is, are they going to limit the amount of 1031 tax exchanges dollar-wise?
So great question. What I would say is we've seen, so, okay, so we've done some meetings over the last week or two, a little inside baseball. I'm feeling more confident that 1031 exchange is probably going to survive. Don't quote me on that.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's nothing in writing. But what was originally being discussed was the idea of $500,000 for an individual, $1 million for a married couple, exclusion, capital gains, exclusion in a 1031 per year. That was the first idea that was proposed. But 1031 exchange raised very small amount of money. It's an easy giveaway for Congress to say, all right, you don't want us to touch 1031 exchange, we won't. Over 10 years, in the $3.5 trillion cost, Congress always puts a price tag of over 10 years. So $3.5 trillion spent over 10 years. 1031 exchange was only going to raise about $19 billion over 10 years. It was nothing. It was a throwaway. Capital gains could raise $322 billion over 10 years. Much bigger pot of money. Corporate tax increase from current rate to 28% could raise over $800 billion. Those are the big pots of money that they're really going to go after. Not as concerned about 1031 exchange. I think it's going to be okay. We'll know more come Monday and Tuesday. As far as stepped up basis, the cap, and again, when you talk about stepped up basis, we're talking about them potentially applying a capital gains tax at time of death. There's probably going to be an exclusion amount. The first $1 million, the first 5 million, the first 10 million.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would be in writing, but the first, let's say $10 million would not be taxed. Anything above it. The first numbers we heard thrown out was $1 million for an individual would not be taxed. $2 million for a married couple. And on top of that, $500,000 primary residence exclusion. That could hit a lot of people in California. We've heard that that number could be going up, perhaps as high as $10 million for a married couple. And again, this is capital gains, not estate. That would exclude a good number of people if it's up to $10 million for a married couple that did proper estate planning. Again, our research in econ is just starting to look at these numbers because we're just getting these numbers. But usually we're probably looking at a cap situation or an exclusion amount. But in California, high cost area, we're going to get hit disproportionately than other states.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. Judy Chow asks, will Federal Reserve taper? And if so, when?
Yes, they're going to taper, assuming everything continues to go as planned. And what we're talking about when we talk about taper is right now the Federal Reserve is buying not just treasury bonds, which is how they're pumping money into the economy, but they're buying mortgage-backed securities, meaning your buyer gets a loan from Bank of America. Bank of America takes their loan, puts it with 100 other mortgages, puts it into a mortgage-backed security and sells it off to Wall Street. But Wall Street hasn't been buying all those mortgage-backed securities. Right now, the Treasury Department is. And that's another way that they're getting money into the system and keeping interest rates very low. Eventually, they're going to taper down their buying. They're going to slowly stop. And then eventually, years down the road, they'll start to sell off, which they just really started to do before COVID hit. They are really trying to advertise months in advance before they start to do it, so Wall Street is ready and interest rates don't spike unexpectedly. But when that happens, yeah, interest rates are probably going to go up a little bit. But the Fed's been really good about announcing their tapering plan and the roadmap that they want to follow.
Okay, we've got a couple extra questions here. Matt, what do you see happening when Governor Newsom is, if or when Governor Newsom is recalled? Does a Republican governor improve or lower our future real estate property and business taxes? And this comes from Ernest Alonso.
Okay, so, and that's my answer. Yeah. So, the Newsom recall, that we could go back to 9/15 and I still wouldn't have enough time to talk about it. I don't know. You know, we were talking about that internally, the in-person polling, in-person voting has been skewing Republican, but there hasn't been as much in-person voting as there has been absentee ballots returned. And so far those have skewed Democratic. So I don't know what's going to happen. There's only so much a governor can do as far as real estate taxes go. You've got Prop 13, and then most of the bonds are done at the local level. Yeah, I'm not quite. Plus, what I would put out there is, look, the Democrats have a super majority. If a Republican governor were to come in, there's no legislation that they would pass. Anything that they do through regulations probably going to get caught up through legislative or judicial challenges. So it would be very difficult for them to get things through the regulatory side. And whatever they did on the regulatory side, the legislature with the supermajority could pass legislation that would just simply undo it or overturn it. And again, they have the supermajority to override the veto. If a Republican comes in, you probably see California politics come to a grinding halt at that point. But I work on federal issues, so now I'm really just a layman sitting around with a beer in a bar talking to a friend as far as the recall. That's my guess.
All right. Question here from Jim Vega. Eliminating the unnecessary subsidies to ExxonMobil fossil fuel industry should help protect the mom and pop benefits of real estate. True or false?
I just don't have an answer for that one. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't have that answer.
Okay. I think that ends the questions. Super presentation. I want to thank you, Matt, for your time and your talents. I don't know where you've been or how I've missed you, but you are a breath of fresh air.
Well,
thank you very much. You articulate extremely well. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being our guest speaker, and we look forward to having you back again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I just put my email address in the chat. You're welcome to contact me anytime. Thank you so much for having me out.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, I want to take a minute now or some time to be able to think about the 9/11 coming up, the anniversary, and think about all the people who are still being affected by this this tragedy. So please, if you'll take just a couple seconds to bow your heads and remember all those people. All right, how about the attendance drawing? Don't forget, only WSGVR members are allowed to win, and you must have your name in the chat box with your DRE number. And the first winner is Garvey Howe. Garvey, are you here?
I don't think so. No,
Garvey,
not here.
respond if you are. And our next winner is Marion Cavatayo.
Marion's here. Marion, can you put your email address? Or
congratulations, Marion. And the second winner, Jan XU.
This person is here.
Jan, okay. Put your information in the chat box. And our winner is Jane Wang Sao.
Usually this person is here, but not here today. Okay, Yuan, thank you very much for your email. The last one, right? Still?
I think we've only got one winner.
Yan.
Yin Burr.
Not here.
Oh.
First time her name is drawn.
Oh, Yin, you missed out. $10 gift card.
Sandy's
Sandy
here.
Franco. She's always here.
Yay!
Yay!
Ali, first time, right?
All right, send your
Congratulations,
information in.
Andy.
All right, so did Garvey come through? No, I have only then two winners, Marion and Sandy.
There's a lady, Yuan.
One came through.
Yeah,
Oh,
one came through.
Okay.
Yes, we're good.
Okay. All right, very
Yeah,
good.
we have the 3 winners.
Okay, they will receive a $10 Amazon e-gift card. All right, thank you very much. Now, here are our education classes for the coming month. We have the 2021 Code of Ethics training. If you haven't taken the course, you have to by the end of the year, and it's absolutely free for WSGVR primary members only. Coming up September 10th. Our next class is the virtual Zip Form Plus training class. Monday, September 13th. Again, this course is offered to you free. The Realtor Safety course, Monday, September 13th. Another course that our association is offering to you free. And then we have the commercial webinar, Opportunity Zone Funds. And that course is on September 14th and it is free. And I didn't know there was an opportunity zone until I attended one of these classes. It was very informative. So make sure that you catch up on the latest information and attend all of our training. All right, C.A.R. Expo is coming up October 5th through the 7th. It's a virtual conference and expo. It is absolutely free. Please register for it. All kinds of information, all kinds of products. It'll be fabulous. If you don't register, it's free. Come on, people. All right, next week, September 16th, right here at 9 a.m., join us as we welcome Catherine Lee, who is the mayor of the city of Alhambra, and she'll be updating us on the city's economic focus, development projects, and more. Don't forget to visit us at www.wsgvar.com for all your real estate needs. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for being with us for this last hour. Have a great week. Make it productive.